Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, tragedy can push you to some pretty strange places, and if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with, once more, as always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals and pick their brain about current projects, how they got started, influences, state of the industry, and so very much more, in a light and conversational fashion, and because that's how we do it around here. And if you like how we do it, I'm assuming you do, you're listening right now, you can subscribe to the podcast. We'd really appreciate that. You can find us basically wherever you find your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Google. It's all good. And plus, you can find every single one of our episodes archived over at our YouTube channel. Also, we'd really love it if you'd follow us on social media. You can do that at either Instagram, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at either at In the Seats or at It's Podcast One for all sorts of updates. And finally, and I dare say most importantly, please give us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest movie news and reviews, a little bit of television too, from the world of entertainment and beyond. We love talking about the moving image, and we love it when you read about it. So please don't hesitate to stop on by. On this episode, we got a good one. We're looking at a little indie thriller that's hitting Prime and a few other platforms in the States this coming April 15th. It's called Goodbye Butterfly, and it's a independent thriller. It's got a little bit of Coen Brothers to it. It's got a little bit of David Fincher to it. It's the story of Ryan Olsen, played by Adam Donshik. He's a family man who's got a perfect life until the day his 5-year-old daughter is inexplicably murdered. And when the investigation hits a dead end, Ryan has a chance encounter with another man, an oddball neighbor from down the streets, and he's convinced that Stan is the killer. But after the police ignore him and dismiss him, Ryan's obsession with Stan quickly turns violent, and he takes the law into his own hands, and he ultimately must decide how far he's willing to go to find out the truth. It's a very well done and really sort of excellent little thriller that sort of wears its influences on its sleeves, but it's an entertaining film. And we got the distinct pleasure to sit down with not only the star Adam Donshik, but writer-director Tyler Wayne about sort of their influences and how the whole project got started, and anything else we could think of, really. But it was a pretty good talk, so I hope you enjoy it, because I know I did. Well, I mean, obviously, first off, thanks for the time today, guys, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Now, I mean, obviously, congratulations on the film, man. I got a kick out of it because it definitely feels like that sort of cul-de-sac, intense sort of, paranoia vibe that it almost feels we're all kind of living with right now, because none of us are allowed to go anywhere technically.
Yeah.
I know this happened before COVID, but I mean, walk me through sort of the inspiration for the story.
Yeah, I've been walking a lot of people through the inspiration for the story today, and it's not the inspiration that you think it is.
Oh, fair enough.
I didn't have this particular thing in mind. I had formed a production company, and we had raised a very, very small amount of financing that we were supposed to put in with another production company on a different project that ended up falling through. So at the last minute, I was left with no project, but at the same time, some investors had put some money and were expecting something in return. So I had to, on the fly, turn around and come up with something that could be made for, very, 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 very little money. So you start with that whole concept of like, okay, well, it looks like this is going to be one of those 3 people in a room movies. And then you just work from there. It's like, what's been done already? What has, what's, a good way to kind of create a story around 3 people in a room. It all kind of started with the premise of like what we had and what we are able to do versus like, this is a story that, I'm desperate to tell.
Okay. So, all right. I mean, that's an interesting way to put it. Just being able to sort of make something out of, it feels like, these are the materials, these are the things I have on hand. So this is the story I can tell. Was that sort of the sort of the
Yeah,
impetus behind it
that's
all?
exactly it. It was completely reverse engineered based on what we had available to us. So, immediately you just go, well, clearly there's not going to be a car chase in this. Clearly there's not going to be this or that. And you just basically end up building around what you have, which is, it's going to be very small. It's going to probably have, one or two locations at the most, and, a handful of characters, and you just kind of build from there.
So I guess maybe my next question is for you, Adam. Like, were you one of those things that was available, or was it just was a question of you like the idea of sort of the material, what the kind of story that he wanted to tell, just based on the limited resources that they had?
Oh yeah, no, I'm purely just the guy who was available.
Mhm.
Well, no, I mean, this came to me. I didn't know Tyler at all. I got an audition through my agents here in Charlotte, and uh, you know, being leading a movie sounds awesome. And I was like, I mean, I'll go on any audition that comes my way. I'm a jobbing actor. That's what I'm going to do. And I feel like I got very, very, very lucky that it was a well-written script, that the people involved were smart and excited about the project, and everyone was prepared. And I mean, I've been a part of many projects in the past that will get shot but never see the light of day. So the fact, this is a testament to Tyler that it went from shooting to distribution. I mean, that's crazy. In a year, or maybe a year and some change, is amazing. But yeah, no, I'm just one of the pieces that was picked up along the way.
But I
And
mean,
now I'm just stuck with him. I'm just stuck with this Adam
He
on the
will
bottom of
never
my shoe for like
ever get rid of me. I am clearly that guy.
No, I'm actually writing a role for Adam in the next thing that I'm doing now. So it was a very
I will take it.
fortuitous meeting.
when you're crafting something like this, like you say, in sort of the spirit of reverse engineering it, I mean, I'm kind of curious, just from a logistical standpoint, how can can you know how long the shoot's going to be, or what you're going to be able to do, or what you're not going to be able to do? Like that kind of fascinates me. Just sort of the idea of trying to do the reverse engineering on this, especially because I mean, when you're shooting a film of any size, there's a lot of planning and there's a lot of things that have to go into the process thereof.
Yeah, I mean, so this was my first time as a writer and my first time as a director. And so it was all hypothetical. It was all theoretical. But you do I had theories, but most of them turned out to be correct. And it was like I knew there were certain things that you couldn't do. Like, for example, you're not going to have a car chase. You're not going to have these big action sequences or gunfights or anything. So immediately you just start ruling a lot of stuff out, and then you consult with some people and talk with them about what's possible and what's not. I talked with my producer, Artisha Cooper, a lot about what this might cost or what that might cost, and you just try to get a feel for the landscape. But even writing things like Adam falling out of a window or something, it was very nerve-wracking because I'm like, how are we going to do this? Can we afford to do this? But you just eventually you start to build a circle and surround yourself with people who know what they're doing as opposed to you. And you end up getting your answers. And but I think, any of us who are proficient in the landscape of cinema, your instincts about what's probably going to cost a lot of money versus what isn't are probably going to be correct.
So, Adam, as an actor, how was it to have a director who was selling you a fact, but it was actually theory when you're trying to sort of develop a role and a character? I'm kind of curious how you would tackle something like this as well.
Well, I have neither facts nor theory, so I think that I didn't really I trusted him. Very early on, I think I made the decision that not stay in my lane, because I certainly didn't do that, but my job was to bring Ryan to life, and I just, I knew early that this was going to be a really good partnership. Can't tell you how I knew that. I just knew it. And we've become very, very good friends. The rapport that we have on screen was very quickly created off screen. And I think
you just fake it till you make it,
Yeah, pretty much.
you just fake it till you make it.
I've been faking it a lot recently. So, and I'm just going to keep faking it. But yeah, at no point did I just get back to the seriousness. At no point did I feel like anything was being flown by the seat of its pants, if that makes sense. It was just a great job. It was a great experience. And it was a lot of hard emotional work, but also a lot of fun.
Well, I think you brought up the right word, trust, because I think that comes through in the film as well, because I got a feeling that, especially on small shoots like this is where you can engender that kind of trust to maybe, like you say, not stay in your lane, to maybe take some risks and to do different things. How does that, I'm kind of curious from both your perspectives, how do you sort of pitch stuff back and forth, especially in the moment when you're trying to sort of not just bring the character to life, but sort of embrace I guess maybe this comes down to sort of the spirit of independent filmmaking. I've never technically been on a small set like this, so I wouldn't know sort of the exact vibe. But I'm always kind of curious, sort of the working dynamic in sort of getting those levels of trust up to do interesting things like you've done here with this film.
There's not a lot of pitching, I can tell you that much. It's more of like, how are we going to do this? It's just practical problem solving, and because you're so limited in what you can do, oftentimes that ends up breeding a lot of very creative solutions. It's I don't know that there's a lot of pitching so much as well, this location that we were supposed to have fell through, like, what are we going to do? And then you just on the fly have to, rely on your team and your cast and your crew to come up with a solution for how you can, practically get things done.
I know that, I think, this is, it goes back, it really does go to the trust. And I think that's the key word here. Because when we were shooting, at least from my perspective, trying to live in this world, Tyler really just trusted that I was going to bring what I needed to bring, and we would do a take. And if there was any needed change, it was presented in a way that was respectful of the process. It wasn't, no, you're doing it wrong, you need to do this, which you can get a lot from first-time writers, directors. They have a vision, it's very clear in their head, and they try to make you fit that. Tyler didn't do that. He trusted that we were going to bring what we needed to bring in order to make this work. And I had to trust the work that I had put into it outside, when I was preparing, alone in my house.
Well, that trust, that trust that you're talking about really just comes from the casting process. It comes from picking the right people, because, you've heard it time and time again. It's a filmmaking cliche, but, you cast your movie right and you solve 80-90% of your problems. That's very true. It's like, there was never a question of like, I had the right actors, because the last thing you want to be worrying about on a shoot like this, where you have 17 days and sometimes you're shooting 10 pages a day, is that you need to pull your actor aside and have a sidebar with them about what the scene coming up is. You just don't have time. So it's like the trust comes from the fact that you've cast the right people. They're going to do their thing, and, leave it to you to solve these logistical problems of how we're going to do it and stuff like that. So that was, in terms of like trusting that Adam was going to come with his performance, there was never a question of that. And it never was an issue. We never had to do more than 1 or 2 takes from him. And going into the editing room, 80%, 90% of what we used in the film was take 1.
Fantastic. Now, I'm curious, like for both of you, because I can feel sort of the genuine enthusiasm and joy between the two of you as we're talking about the movie, and I'm kind of curious, is that joy kind of what got you into the business? That sort of us against the world? Because I mean, you can work on other projects, you can do other shoots, but there isn't always those opportunities to sort of have that small group of misfits band together and make a film, which is, basically independent filmmaking in a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, well, look, to be frank, I did it this way because it was the only way I
Of
had,
course,
only
yeah.
means I had at my disposal to do it. But yeah, I don't know if I have anything beyond that. This is the only way that I had at my means to do it. Adam, do you have anything to add on to that?
I think early on when I was in drama school, I wanted to be able to create that group of people who were going to always move forward together. Sort of the kind of world that like Martin Scorsese created with, Robert De Niro and
Yeah.
Al Pacino, like that's sort of like, these are the guys I go to make the projects that I want to make. And, we are always, I think there's a transience and sort of a nomadic nature to actors. And I think when you find the people who you really gel with, you want to take them with you, or you want to continue on the journey with them. And this was just kismet. This was pure chance, but purely kismet. And that I think that, I have found a very like-minded artist in Tyler, and I would like to believe that this is vice versa, although I'm sure he'll say no. But I think that partnership, or that coming together of that spirit helped make this movie what it was, and really have it sort of take off the way it did.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think that's everybody's looking for what you're talking about, which is sort of like on the crew end too, as well, not just cast, but like you're looking for that Clint Eastwood unit, where it's just like assemble the Avengers. And the first time out, it's like you don't know who's who and what's what, but definitely with this one, we've walked away with certain people that are certainly members of the Avengers teams, but being the first time out, you also walk away with certain people who aren't. So if the next one gets up and running, certain people are going to get the call and certain people aren't. But you are always, the goal, I think, is to form that unit where it's just you get the call and you have the Avengers, and you can assemble all these people that everybody knows one another and trusts one another and knows what the other person is looking for or wants without really having to communicate it that much.
And you know what? I love that you both said that, because I mean, I definitely got a little De Niro and Keitel in the back room in Mean Streets seeing you guys work, and I definitely feels like with this film, you may have done that. You may have set that ball rolling in a very interesting direction. And I just want to say thank you again for the time, and congratulations again on the film.
Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, guys.
Really appreciate it. Have a great one.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.